if you actually follow up like a pro, you could convert nearly half of these lost leads. If each person spends $2,000 with you in their customer lifetime cycle, that's $28,000 in your pocket. Money leaking out of this side of the business. It's a dead end. But when you plug up the gap, suddenly you're not losing cash, you're actually starting to collect it. Let's get real. If you're not following up, you're literally burning money. I'm talking thousands, maybe even six figures, left on the table just because you ghosted your leads after the first time they said no. Want to know where the real money lies? It's in the follow-up. And most business owners are too scared, too lazy, and too distracted to do it. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Lisa. I am a business coach helping service-based founders. I've spent over a decade building and scaling businesses, coached thousands of business owners from their very first client all the way through to breaking 7 figures. And I created this video because this is the #1 mistake I see business owners make. They leave serious money on the table by not following up. So if you want real, no fluff strategies that actually boost your bottom line, especially when it comes to turning leads into cash, this is where you get it on this channel. So subscribe if you'd like to see more of this. Okay, so check this out. This is your existing sales funnel. Basically, as part of this process, there are 3 main steps. You have your marketing, your sales, and your customer success. And every customer that signs up with you has to go through each of these 3 phases. To briefly just go through an overview, marketing is just your marketing process. So you might do this through word of mouth, through referrals, social media, paid ads, SEO, or something else. I haven't covered all of the different marketing channels that are out there, but these are the most common ones that I see in my clients. Now, your leads will move from marketing into sales when there is a visitor conversion. So what I mean by this is when you actually collect data. So they give you their email or their phone number, which means that from there, you can actually contact them and move them into a sales call. So there are different ways that you can do so. You might get them to fill in a website form. Maybe they find you on Google and they just call you directly. But essentially, once you have that information, all right, we move into the sales process. Now, this is our focus of today. So in the sales call, you are going to qualify your leads. And when you qualify your leads, you're basically deciding, yes, is it worth actually pursuing this conversation? I can see this person turning into a customer of mine, or is it no? And you actually disqualify them from the rest of your sales process. So for example, a person you might actually disqualify is somebody who has given you their contact details, but they actually are asking for a service that you don't actually offer. Maybe they're looking for a math tutor, but you only do English. Sometimes I've even seen clients where their business names get confused with another business name. I currently have a client where people actually call her because they think that she's a laundromat because she shares the same name as a laundromat. So obviously these people are unqualified. You don't actually need to move them into the rest of the sales process. But if you do qualify your leads and you can see, yes, they are a good fit for me and my business, the next question becomes, have you closed the deal? Have you won the deal? So if it's a yes, you moved into close 1, and this is where they might sign the contract, they pay you money, then that customer moves into customer success where they get onboarded, and then you need to focus on customer retention. Now, for today, we're really going to focus on this element here. If you actually lose that lead, either they say no or they just completely ghost you. This is actually where most business owners bail. They give up after they see the no and they're like, okay, whatever, let's go back to focusing on marketing and getting more leads into the funnel. But the answer isn't always more leads for you to get more money. The lower hanging fruit is actually realizing there are more steps here that you can pursue. And if you're skipping this step, you're actually letting money slip through your fingers. So here's the cold, hard truth. Only 2% of sales are made from the very first contact with you and your business. 3% are made on the second touch point, 5th on the third touch point, 10th on the 4th, and 80% of deals, they close after the 5th follow-up. But what we see here is that half of the salespeople give up after this first attempt. This means that if you're not following up with this lead, you're actually handing the commission to the next person that picks up the phone. I get it. You don't want to feel pushy. You tell yourself, oh, they've already said no, so they're not interested. But this actually isn't the case. Most people are busy, they're distracted, and they're forgetful. So the winners in business are the ones that actually check in. They add value and they don't disappear after the first, hey, just checking in. Let's get specific with some numbers here. Let's say that you get 50 leads each month to your business and you have a really great conversion rate of 40%. That means that you close 20 customers per month. Awesome. But what about the remaining 60%? With the remaining 60%, that means that you've actually lost 30 leads in the pipeline. most business owners let these leads go cold. But if you actually follow up like a pro, you could convert nearly half of these lost leads. And that could potentially be, say, 14 more deals. If each person spends $2,000 with you in their customer lifetime cycle, that's $28,000 in your pocket. So the bottom line is that you could be missing out on $28,000 per month in closed deals just by being too scared to actually follow up. So how do you actually follow up? The key is to be consistent but not annoying. Space it out based on timing that actually makes sense. So for example, if a lead said to you, oh, I've just been so busy at the moment, the next 2 weeks are hectic for me because my other daughter has her exam period, then you might actually wait until the end of those 2 weeks to catch up and say, hey, I'm just checking in. I know you had a really busy 2 weeks because your other child was going through their exam period. How was that? And by the way, what are your thoughts now on tutoring for your son? This actually helps that person feel like you genuinely see them and you remember hearing about their world, which then actually builds rapport and builds trust with your business and therefore might lead them to a conversion. This leads me to my next point, which is make it personal. When you speak to them, don't just be like, hey, so what do you think about tutoring? Actually reference their pain points, their goals. Try to avoid reading off a script and really build a personalized approach to your sales calls. A good way to approach this, for example, is if that parent has said to you, oh, my child really struggles to pay attention in class. They're just not interested in the content, but he has the goal of getting into this dream university career that requires much higher marks of him. And so when you check in with that parent, you might say something like, hey, it's been about a week since we actually last spoke with one another. I know you mentioned that your son is having difficulty paying attention in class and he was trying to apply some new skills that he had learned online and you wanted to see how that went before you signed up to tutoring. So how is he going with that? Have you noticed any difference? The more you personalize that message, the more you'll realize that your lead will give you more data points for you to leverage in the sales call. This allows you to switch up your message every time you contact them rather than just a, hey, did you want tutoring again? And it starts to feel more like a relationship, feels more like a conversation. And that's all sales is at the end of the day. It's all about building that trust with that other person so that they go, you know what? I'm ready for this. I'm ready to actually start working with you because I believe you can help me with my goal. If you're not logging every follow-up, then you're just winging it and you're not going to be able to see the patterns in what works and what doesn't work in terms of your approach and at what cadence those follow-ups should be. When you start recording, you start systemizing. So one of the resources I give to my clients is this spreadsheet where they actually measure their follow-up and record down what they actually did in that follow-up. What I'd love to do as well is offer this to you for free. So if you'd like to download this template and start using it in your business, then grab a copy in the description link below. And speaking of my clients, I specifically have a mastermind dedicated to tutoring business owners. It's a program for high-performing tutors who are scaling from 6 figures to 7 figures. And every time I teach this follow-up funnel, my clients see their total conversion rate jump up by 20%. Some even hit 30% gains within a month. So if you're interested in having a community of tutor bosses who uplift and support each other, where you share the same challenges and you just want a sounding board for you and your business, then my doors are opening soon. You can find out more by jumping onto the waitlist. I'll link it up in the description box for you below. Spots are very limited for the remainder of this year. I don't open doors often and I don't accept absolutely everybody. I'm very intentional about who comes into the space. I'd love to find out more about you and have a chat with you if you feel like this might be the right thing for you and your business. So most people's sales process looks like this. Money leaking out of this side of the business. It's a dead end. But when you plug up the gap, suddenly you're not losing cash, you're actually starting to collect it. So the bottom line is that money is made in the follow-up. Stop leaving cash on the table for your competition who's doing follow-ups better than you. If you got value out of this video and you've watched all the way until the end, I'd love for you to comment the word follow-up just so that I know you appreciated this, you're gonna start implementing it into your business, and for me to do more videos like this. If you wanna take this one step further, don't miss out on my next video where I break down the exact non-salesy lines I use to charge more, overcome objections, and close more deals. Click through now and start turning those follow-up calls into profits.